Let's go, folks. Time for the Gibby Show.
How you doing, baseball fans? And welcome to another edition of the Gibby Show, presented by Miller Lite, the official beer of Major League Baseball and the Gibby Show. I'm John Arezzi, and joining me, the two-time manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, member of the 1986 World Champion New York Mets, the #1 best-selling author, and the voice of Gibby, Tales of a Baseball Lifer, the audiobook, which I've been listening to every single day. He participated in this weekend's ceremony inducting José Bautista into the Blue Jays level of excellence. The man who always tells it like it is. And joining us today direct from the Miller Lite headquarters there in Toronto, the baseball lifer himself, John Gibbons. Gibby, how's life in Toronto?
Oh, Johnny, what a great weekend. It really was. And it was just an honor to be there for, watch Jose. And one thing the Blue Jays always do, they're first class. They put things, they do a wonderful job. They go all out for everything they do. And for me personally, it was fun to come back, see some old friends, and of course see some of the players and the old coaches that I coached with, and it was a wonderful time. But I'm worn out, But then we're topping it off today over here at the Miller Lite facility. Man, what a first class place they got, So
yeah,
it's been a good week.
They were anxious to get you in there, and it's a good way to kind of end the trip, is to hang out with some of the sponsors, Miller Lite folks, and so I'm sure that was great. I heard they did a little Q&A with you, and you signed a bunch of books, so it must have been great. But John, you got to be on a high from the last several days. What a great weekend, as you were saying. First off, your feelings about being part of this ceremony that was just really done well. Being with everybody. So give us your feelings first and foremost about just being invited and being part of that huge ceremony.
Well, when they first contacted me back in the spring, I said, "Oh man, I can't wait." I've been a huge fan of Jose's. Jose's done a lot for me personally, as far as the name I've made in the game of baseball up here. I owe a large part of that to him, right? When you get to manage great players, when they do great things, and you're part of it, that's how it all happens, right? And he did a wonderful job in his when he was speaking to the fans, and it was good to see some old teammates. I mean, and guys that played for me, and even first go round, and you go back to my this last time, guys like Adam Lynn were there, Travis Snyder, and then of course you had Ryan Goins, and got to see my old buddy Cito Gaston was here, and old Murph, the old hitting coach Dwayne Murphy, and then of course Brian Butterfield, my old buddy. I had no idea he was coming, coach third base for us. So, it was a wonderful time. They put on a show. Mark Shapiro, did a great job putting it all together. And signing off on everything. I tell you, the stadium's beautiful. I had heard about the changes, and I hadn't seen them up close yet. They did a fantastic job with that. And the team lost a couple games over the weekend, but then they won a big one yesterday. They got an off day today. That's the important thing. They're in a good spot right now, and I think they're ready to catch fire.
Yeah, it certainly was a great game on Sunday. But I do want to touch upon the ceremony itself. Gibby, the reaction of the fans for you was amazing. It was Jose's day, obviously. Keegan Matheson, the Jays reporter for MLB.com, said it was the loudest cheer of the season at the Rogers Center when you were introduced, until Batista came out, of course. What was going through your mind as you stood on that field and heard the reaction of the fans when you were announced?
Johnny, I don't know if I can explain it. My last day here back in 2018, our last home game, they treated me like gold. We had announced that I wasn't coming back, and every time I went to the mound, they gave me a great ovation. Right, wasn't a huge crowd that day, but it was a bullpen day, so we made about 6 pitch changes. So every other inning, I was out there saying, "Hey, I milked that for everything." And then, but that was the last time, and they treated me like gold. And then, of course, the other day, I had a feeling I'd get a nice reception. But there was like a bond that was formed. Don't ask me how, but I fell in love with the people up here, and I think they appreciated, I think they appreciated me. I think, they know I'm a simple guy that, I'm proud to say I'm one of them in a certain, to a certain extent. And I tell you what, though, I teared up a little bit. I was walking out there and I'll never
You
forget it.
you looked a little emotional walking out there, and of course, it was wonderful to see on television. I watched every minute of it, and then even on Sunday, they had some camera shots of you and Cito watching the game up there in one of the suites. So it was really a very cool experience, and for somebody who really has become a Blue Jay fan over the years, and especially the opportunity of doing this with you, first class organization, first class ceremony. It was great to see you there and be welcomed by the fans after stepping on the field since 2018. So what a great weekend. And you also got a chance while you were up there earlier in the week to visit the Jays A-ball team, the Vancouver Canadians. So that must have been fun as well for you.
Yeah, yeah. The only negative is I'm a little bit tired from all the traveling, man, now that I'm older. But yeah, I went out to on Monday, I flew out to Vancouver, saw the A-ball team, had a wonderful time too. I'd been out there when I played in the Pacific Coast League in 1988 with the Albuquerque Dodgers AAA. I think it was White Sox, but that was AAA team in Vancouver. Same stadium, but they've really fixed this place up. It's beautiful, right? They draw great crowds, and what a beautiful city, And then I went home to Texas for a day and then flew up here. So I've been crisscrossing it a little bit. But, there's some good young players out there on that A-ball team in Vancouver that you'll see. A lot of good ones have come through there in the past. Heck, John Schneider managed there for 3 years. And so a lot of tradition, a lot of history out there. And there's help on the way.
Yeah. It's always good to see a good minor league system developing those players because that's the future. But speaking of the present, we're going to get to the leadoff now. There's a lot of baseball to go over as well. And let's do that. Let's go to the leadoff. The lead in the AL West is as tight as it can be. In the AL East, rather, with the Seattle Mariners kind of breathing down the neck now of the Jays in the final wild card spot. The Mariners have gone 15-6 since the Toronto series back on July 31st. And these teams don't face each other head to head anytime again during the regular season. Is this maybe a good motivator for the Jays, seeing that the Mariners are directly in their rear view?
Well, they know where they're at, put it that way. But in reality, I mean, everybody's, they're constantly reminded of the standings, and we look at them every day. That's just, but in reality, they just go out there, they play their game, right? They try to win that day because that's really all you can do. If you get caught up too much in what another team's doing, you're in trouble. But something, that my experience teaches me, Seattle have been kind of a disappointment all year long, really, right? They're one of the top 3 teams that probably, like the Padres and all that, they really never got it going after a big last year, right? Now they get on this nice little roll, and they draw close, right? Then they drop the last 2 games against Baltimore. So, but what happens? Not always, and you never know what's going to happen from here on out. But my experience teaching me, when you get on that kind of nice streak that they were on, and you close the gap, but you don't quite you don't make up ground or you don't jump ahead. You can't. In Major League Baseball, the team's too good. You're not going to maintain that. It's impossible. So the law of averages say they're going to cool off. It's just you just expend so much getting there. Now that doesn't mean it won't happen, but the odds are against you. It's like I can remember in 2 different situations, but in 2013, my first year back, managing with the Blue Jays, we had this team that was supposed to win it all, right? We got off to a terrible start. And we won like 10, 11 games in a row just to get back to 500. That's how bad we were.
Wow.
But by then we were so out of gas, and this was like in June or something, So when you get down those great streaks like they've been on, you need to climb right to the top, man, or get very close to it because that drop's coming. It just has to, man. There's too many good teams, and there's the law of averages say you're not going to keep that up.
Yeah, so if the Jays get on a run now, it could be really good timing for them as we head into the latter part of August and September. I do want to speak to you about another potential motivator, and I have to go back to the weekend and the ceremony with Jose and the level of excellence. Now, the current Jays, they're all there in the dugout. They're seeing the legends being introduced. They're feeling the love of the fans and just how special those teams in 2015 and 16 were. Could this be a possible motivator for a team wanting the squad to someday be as remembered as those teams? Like, this is what could be for us if we get to the promised land, so to speak.
Johnny, I'm not sure. Probably not. Yeah, I mean, they get caught up in the excitement. But you got to remember this group too. They got in the playoffs last year, right? They had a great year. The year before they won 90 and didn't get in, but then that shortened season, the COVID year, they did. And it's like, they know they're good. They've experienced the excitement in that town, in that country of themselves last year, right? So they know what that's all about. I think naturally they look at the players that have gone before them. And when you see a great player like Bautista and Carnacion who was out there, yeah, that resonates with them, because most of those guys will never sniff what those guys did, right? So it's a tight community, fraternity, even the young players, the old players, and they appreciate what they accomplished. But just like the older guys appreciate what these guys are going through. So if they had never experienced it, or they've just been kind of so-so and they're kind of in the hunt this year, they might look at it a little differently. They might say, wow, let's look at this crowd. But they've experienced that themselves. And they remember too, the excitement and the adrenaline that you get from those kind of crowds also brings a little pressure, and they felt that last year. But that experience is going to do wonders for them this year, I think.
Yeah, I think just watching everything and seeing where the season lies ahead, and it's an exciting time to be a Blue Jay fan, and exciting time to be talking baseball.
You know what they need to do, Johnny? Because it's been kind of one of those years, they just been kind of going along, steady. They haven't had that big streak, or they hadn't disappeared, any of that stuff. And the fans, they got Blue Jays fans. There's nobody better. They just need to stick with them, ride them out. You know what? Everybody's all in. The front office has gone all in. The ownership's gone all in. They got a good team to do it. Yeah. I think their best streak is yet to come. They haven't had that this year, and everybody has it. And just ride the wave with them, man. And in the end, they're going to be there, and you never know how far they can go.
Yeah, we got obviously the depth on the pitching side of it. We'll be talking to Pete Walker in just a bit about that. It's just been the offense that's had the lack of consistency, and there's a lot of talk on the broadcast in the reporting about teams playing with a team approach. I'm hearing that more and more. And what they were talking about, I was all right. The bats came alive even towards the latter part of Saturday's game, and especially Sunday's game, and that they were really attacking the fastballs, and they kept referring to this team approach. John, when it comes to team approach, 1 to 9 in the order, and finally, you think that helps in that philosophy? Can you kind of explain what that means, and could it be helpful in maybe putting a much needed run together offensively?
Yeah, well, first off, the team approach is basically talking, okay, do the little things. If you go up there, if they pass the baton, if they don't want to pitch to you, or you get tough at bat, take your walk, or whatever it is. Or, you get a guy in scoring position or on second base with no outs, move him to third base, hit the ball the other way, something like that. Whatever it takes, busting your butt on the bases. That's a team approach. Pass the baton. Nobody cares who gets the credit, because you'll get on a lot of teams, especially teams that are falling out of it and all. That becomes this selfish game, where I gotta get my own, right. And that's always been the case, and everybody's guilty of it, because it's a game, it's a team game that's played as individuals. You have a job to do yourself, but you're still a part of the team. I think that mentality is important. And I think when you get in the playoffs, right, the teams get in the playoffs have good pitching. You're going to face the best pitching, right? So runs are going to be hard to come by anyway. That's always been the case. Okay. So you've got to figure they're going to be low scoring games or tight games where the fundamental team type hitting or approach at the plate is what's going to win those. You're not going to hit a ton of home runs off the best pitchers in the game. It just doesn't happen, So you got to scratch and claw for runs. So I think that's kind of what they're talking about, the mentality there. And yeah, they moved the ball around the field. They were hitting it all over the field the other day on Sunday.
Yeah, they were. It was great to see, and hopefully that carries on. You are listening to the Gibby Show, presented by our friends at Miller Lite. And as the official beer of the MLB, Miller Lite wants to send you to the World Series for the month of August. Visit your local Canadian brew house for a Miller Lite and enter for your chance to win a VIP experience to this year's World Series. All you got to do is visit www.millerlite.ca/2023 World Series contest for more information. Good luck and enjoy that Miller Lite.
Well, that's pretty good right there.
Great
hey, it might be in
contest.
Toronto. It'd be in Toronto. You don't have to go very far.
There you go.
Corner booths, sticky floors, weekdays that feel like weekends. You never forget the way some things taste. Miller Lite, great taste, 90 calories. Tastes like Miller time.
Last week, we discussed the Jays' six-man rotation, but with some days off, the Jays now go back to the five-man rotation, Gibby, with Alec Manoah being an option to AAA. Did Manoah's second demotion of the season surprise you in any way?
No, not really. Since he come back, he's looked much better. He's still not what he was last year, but he will. I think everybody's got the confidence in the world, and everybody's. We're not with these guys every day, but the people that are, they see those little signs that tell you, okay, he's moving the right direction. And he was solid. He had some good outings. Command was still an issue at times for him. But you got to remember too, when they went to the six-man rotation, it's because they had no days off, right? And those guys need a little breather, but now they got 3 days off in like a week. So now you have to go back to that five, because otherwise, way too much time off, right? And so, and also you look at that rotation, he may be the only guy that had options you could even move. The other guys are all veteran guys, so that's a part of it. But he'll be back to help him. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, we talked about it on the last show that, with a six-man rotation, that's going to be, whittled down to five after these 17 straight games in a row, that the odd men out, could have been Manoah or Ryu. Ryu's performed. Manoah still is kind of struggling a little bit, so it made perfect sense. And as you point out, it's the options. It's the options on the young guys, and Manoah's so young. So putting him back in AAA to try to fix him, making sure that when he comes back, he's ready to go. That makes perfect sense for the Jays to do that.
Yeah, but the reality of the game is the guys making the money don't go anywhere anyway. That's just that's not just this team. And everybody knows that's coming. So it's
baseball economics. It's baseball economics, right?
I don't know what famous manager said it, but they were talking about when you're facing another team lineup, a great lineup, who do you pitch to? Or like if there's a base open, the guy on deck, whatever. Who you going to pitch to out of that line? He said he pitched to the guy making the least amount of money, because the guy making all the money, he's more successful, and he's done a lot more things. So go after the young kid. So look at their salaries. That's how you decide. Makes some sense.
There you go. Well, that's going to wrap up the leadoff, and now it's time for Gabbing with Gibby, brought to you by Tim Hortons. And get your cold on with new sparkling quenchers at Tim's. They're bubbly, refreshing, and naturally flavored in blackberry, yuzu, and orange ginger. Try your favorite at your nearest Tim's in Canada today.
I had about three. I was there about 3 times this weekend, by the way.
I did see you having one of them wonderful breakfast sandwiches there. So
that was out in Vancouver, man.
That was Vancouver, but I'm sure you made your stops at Tim's throughout the trip.
Oh yeah.
Today on Gabbing with Gibby, brought to you by Tim Hortons, it's our pleasure to bring on the man who oversees pitching for the Blue Jays. He's been affiliated with the Jays since 2002, appearing in 124 games with Toronto from 2002 to 2006. He returned in 2011 and has been with the club since then, becoming the Blue Jays pitching coach in 2012. He's one of the most respected coaches in the game. Let's welcome Pete Walker to Gabbing with Gibby. Pete, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
I'm doing great. Nice to meet you too. It's a pleasure to be here today for sure. I'm excited about it.
Big weekend. Big weekend just passed.
Hey, Petey, man. Hey, I've been waiting for this now. But you're tough to track down. I mean, I don't. In all seriousness, I don't think there's a harder working coach out there. There's not a better pitching coach in the game. and the results speak for themselves. And so we appreciate you, especially on an off day coming on here, to let people, let know, when I was managing the Mets minor leagues, you were one of my pitchers in AAA, right? Then I left and came over to Toronto. And I can remember one day, JP Richardi came up to me and said, hey, Pete's on waivers. Should we grab him? I said, yeah, you better grab him, right? And so that's when you came over to Toronto.
Yeah.
And you did a heck of a job there. You really, when you showed up, you solidified a bad team, right? We weren't very good, but you made us a little bit better.
I came at a tough time. I came in at a tough time, but no, that's true, because I probably wouldn't be here, especially with this organization for this many years, if I didn't get that opportunity, right? So it was you having the opportunity to pitch for you in Norfolk, and then obviously your connection with JP. And like I said, that story resonates, because I think about that sometimes, because I know all the years that I've spent here probably wouldn't have happened. I would have been somewhere else, maybe doing something different, had I not, run into you in Norfolk, and then obviously JP taking a flyer on me and give me that opportunity. That was a tough time in the organization, but I took advantage of it, that's for sure.
Well, no, you might not have been working for the Blue Jays. You might be working for the Yankees, the Red Sox, and whatever. Because somebody would have grabbed you as a pitcher, and they would have said sooner or later, "Hey, this guy's too good, man. We got to make him a pitching coach." And then you know what? So the Blue Jays are lucky. That's for damn sure.
I think I'm still pretty lucky. I obviously got to spend some time with you here, and which started it all off. And then I've been through a couple of different managers along the way, but it's been an awesome ride. The city, as you know, Gib, and everybody that's been here, is just an incredible city. I fall in love with it, and I certainly fell in love with it. My first couple of years pitching here. So, looking back at all the time that I've been here, it's actually it's humbling for sure. And but I don't take it lightly, and I'm still excited to be here every day. I love coming to the park. I love working with my pitchers, and I think I've grown a lot since my early days as a pitching coach. I went through a lot of trial and error. You make some mistakes along the way, but I think over time you keep making them, as we know. But you just, you try to get better every day.
Pete, hey, a good way, the only way to judge a coach, right? Well, you judge a manager by wins and losses, right? Okay. Yeah. And you judge the specific coaches, whether it be the hitting coaches or the pitching, by the results they get. Now, there's no doubt certain teams have more talent than others, but the key for those coaches is to get the most out of what they have, right? I don't care who that is, what your staff looks like. You got to get the most out of it, and that's one thing you've always been able to do. I've seen you take guys that on their way out and resurrect their careers, right? I've seen you take superstar players that all of a sudden start to struggle, they're starting to question themselves, and get them back on track. And you've done it all. And I think the biggest thing, I want you to speak to this a little bit. It's not always what you know. Obviously, you have to know the ins and outs of pitching.
Not that.
Well, that was a big part of it. But you know what? It's your relationship with these guys. Number one, they got to trust you. What is it? And I know you're a humble guy, but there's something different about you, because I've never talked to a pitcher that you've coached didn't rave about you. So tell us how it starts at the beginning.
I still think I've been pretty lucky with the guys that I've had. I think, as you know, being in the game, if you're in the game a long time, you learn how to, I think you have good people skills, and you learn to read people, understand people. I think any coach in major leagues or professional baseball, for that matter, or the collegiate ranks, I think the successful ones definitely connect and resonate with their pitchers. They have a way to get through to their pitchers, connect with them, not just on a professional level, on a personal level too. I think you show you care. I think that's been something I've taken pride in over the years. And hey, it doesn't work all the time. I know you said it seems to work a lot, but there's always instances where things don't work out, and the relationships aren't great. But I think when that happens, it's almost, for me, it's always felt like I've failed someone, So I think as a coach, if you feel like you failed someone, you got to figure it out, right? You got to find a way to get through that guy. And I think that's something I've taken pride in. And I think, again, they're not all success stories. There's guys that you work with and it doesn't work out for one reason or another. And then some guys you kind of get lucky with and things kind of click. But I do agree with you. I think the relationships you build in the game are probably the most important. in order to get someone to try certain things, to maybe do something different. If they don't respect you or trust you, then you're really going to have a hard time getting through to that guy. So I think that is a big part of it. There is the information you need, from a mechanical standpoint, game calling, breaking down of pitchers, maybe some areas they're struggling with. But I think one of the areas of really spent a lot of time with is really just finding a way to connect with the pitchers. And I think that's number one for sure. I think, and that's really in all walks of life, right? I mean, I just think it's
Yeah.
People and having good people skills and understanding them and listening, not being one of those guys that talks over you, I've had coaches like that. I'm sure you have too, where they're kind of overbearing, and I never want to be that guy.
Hey, no wonder you're such a good husband, man. You listen, for crying out loud. There's something to be learning.
Oh God!
Pete's got 3 beautiful girls, man. So he has learned to listen in his lifetime.
Yeah, that is very true. Being around girls for sure is it definitely softens you a little bit. It makes you listen and understand. So if we're 3 boys, it might have been a little different. I don't know.
Johnny, what do you got, Johnny?
I got a few things. First, with the depth of the Jays pitching this year, not only starters but relievers, is this the best Toronto pitching staff in your tenure with the team?
That's a tough one. We've had some pretty good ones. I look back to 15 and 16, but I think even in those years, there seemed to be a hole or two. Right now, with the addition of Ryu right now in the rotation, throwing well, obviously Bassett, Barrios, Gossman, Kikuchi have all pitched really well. And, the bullpen has been really, really deep. We couldn't be happier with the way the bullpen has pitched this year. They've really battled. They've taken the ball consistently. We haven't had a lot of turnover there. It's been really nice. We've had some guys come up and do a nice job too. Look at Jay Jackson and Bowden Francis and, guys like that, Nate Pearson. So we've been very fortunate. We've been, knock on wood, we haven't had a lot of injuries and we've been able to, withstand those issues that seem to creep up. But they've done a fantastic job this year. I mean, they go right through the entire bullpen, the rotation. They picked each other up. They're a close-knit group. I love being around them. I think that's a big reason why they're successful too. They seem to enjoy each other, which is awesome. It doesn't always work that way, and from team to team. But this is a really special group, and they're a close-knit group. But I look back at 15 and 16 that we had some pretty good staffs for sure, and we had some dominant guys at the end of the game. But I don't think we had the depth that we had then now with our middle relievers who can pitch high leverage situations.
I'd like to discuss Alec. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'd like to discuss Alec Manoah for a minute. He was optioned to AAA this past week. Past 2 seasons have been night and day for this young man. He's a beloved player. He's loved by the fans. He's loved by his teammates. How hard was it for the organization when the decision was made to reassign Alec for a second time this year?
He's been through a lot this year for sure. You look at last year and you look at this year, even the year before, a year and a half, just the consistency. And this year, obviously, there wasn't that consistency early. Went through a few struggles mechanically. He's got himself back on track for sure. A few adjustments that he made coming back have been great. It's just at this stage of the season, every game is so critical, and it just came down to it's tough to handle a 6-man rotation, especially with the off days we have coming up. He's going to be back. I mean, he's just a big part of this organization. He's a worker. He knows he's headed in the right direction. Things that he wanted to work on, that we wanted him to work on, he did. And I think we're just at the point of the season where it's just a little bit tough with the off days, and handling a 6-man rotation is tough when you're taking one guy out of the bullpen. Now you're stressing the bullpen a little bit at times. So it was a very difficult organizational decision. Alec is a huge part of this rotation going forward for years to come. And again, he's made I know there were struggles and it was a very difficult season, but when he came back, he was doing a lot of things we wanted him to do, glimpses of what he did last year. So unfortunately, it's a tough time of the year, but I think he's definitely making strides and doing the things that he needs to do to be successful for a long time.
Yeah, he's such an exciting pitcher to watch. I mean, he really is. And he just wears his heart on his sleeve, everything that he's done. I mean, that's why he's so likable, and the fans have embraced him. His teammates have embraced him. So we certainly wish him the best, and can't wait to see him back. Can't wait to see him back in the rotation and back with the team.
Yeah.
And it could be a very special September in Toronto.
Sure. Sure.
You know, Petey, people, you know, people got to realize too, of course, he's a little bit different because, he was third in the Cy Young last year, right?
Sure.
If he had just been average Joe, what's in a lot of ways, what's happened to him is kind of the norm in the big leagues for most guys, right?
Yeah,
you go up and down. I mean, that's kind of the way it is.
Really is. Early on, it's unusual to see someone come in and just dominate from start to finish, right? Who does that? I can't think of really anybody. You might have a few names in mind, but
no.
But Alec, yeah, he came out hot for sure with limited minor league time. Just had a little bit of a struggle up here. It's not easy. This game is a tough game, and it's only going to make him better. It's only going to every player that goes through it, his teammates had great things to say to him. He's making tremendous progress, and it is. It's like it's eye opening sometimes because you realize not that you ever think it's easy, but when you're going really good, things are going pretty easy, right? And then all of a sudden it's not. It's like what's going on? Where it's a little confusing to the individual for sure, but he'll get through it. I guarantee it. But I think in general, players they all go through it. Everybody goes through it, and it's just when you are, like you said, third in the Cy Young, or you're such a big personality, you're out there a little bit more, right? So obviously, it makes it a little bit tougher for sure.
Yeah, and you know what else, people, and I don't know for sure, but it's got a factor. You can't send everybody down. I mean, everybody doesn't have options. He's such a young kid. Your rotation, those guys have all been around the block. It's so regardless, he's going to be the odd man out because you can't keep running that 6 guys out there. It messes those guys up, right?
Yeah, because as well. I mean, it's tough. Guys like the extra day every once in a while, right? Starters for sure, but they get too far out of their routine. It can affect everybody. If they go 7 or 8 days starts, we literally have 3 off days. We have an off day today, we have an off day Thursday, and off day Monday. So you'd be pushing guys back 7, 8 days, and then it becomes a little bit, they're fresh, but are they sharp, right? So so there's a fine line between overwork. Like we went through a period where those starters worked pretty hard too. So I think they welcome the 6-man rotation for a short amount of time. But at this point in the season, you got to have your best guns out there for sure, as much as possible.
Hit refresh this summer with Tim's new sparkling quenchers. Bubbly and naturally flavored, our blackberry yuzu and orange ginger quenchers are the perfect cool down. Keep it cold with Tim's new sparkling quenchers.
Yeah. Hey, I want 2 guys. You haven't resurrected them because they've had some success, but Berrios and Kikuchi.
Yeah.
Right. They both pitched in the big leagues. They both had some success. He had tough years last year, and people would even ask me, about those 2. I said,
yeah,
and I said they're in good hands, man. They got Pete, not just Pete, but the guys around him. It's always a team effort. But I said, these guys, they'll bounce back. The big leagues is a tough game, right? And now look at them. 2 of them, they've been rolling along the best of anybody in baseball. Those 2.
They've been awesome. Like I said, the 4 guys. You look at our top 4 guys. They've put up some pretty good numbers, and they've really put us in a good position this year. Yeah. Gucci and Berrios. Berrios is going to bounce back. Just because of his history. Last year was a tough year. Got out of whack a little bit. But he came in on a mission, and I knew in spring training. Worked his butt off all winter. His delivery. Got back to maybe making some adjustments in game planning, but we have like you did say, you made the point. We have a great group. The pitching group that I'm surrounded by is awesome. We have guys that do some deep dives on certain individuals, finding things that maybe aren't easy to recognize, the naked eye, and so they provide some really good information. We sift through it. We kind of make some adjustments, but I've been fortunate to have a good group around me there. And Rios is just taking off. You could tell in spring training. You could tell his velo's back, his command's back, his spin is back on his breaking ball. His changeup's been really good. So he's been very consistent. And then Kikuchi, we did probably made more adjustments with him over the last year and a half as far as from a delivery standpoint. Changing his hands, lowering his hands, simplifying his delivery. I think the bullpen helped him a little bit. And then coming into the season with the pitch clock, he's got to work fast. He tends to overthink. We've talked about it with him and had a lot of conversations about it, but he's pretty much just getting it and going now. And it's very difficult for the hitters to pick up. But he's been awesome. I enjoy watching him as much as anybody. I mean, he's a lot of fun to watch, and his confidence is through the roof. It's been awesome. You're right. It's been a lot of fun watching those two this year.
He's been dominant. Hey, when you said game planning, right?
Yeah.
We had a guy on the show, one of your all-time favorites, Mark Burley.
Oh, man.
So you can say all that. We were talking about Burley said, hey, I don't go into. Remember, he never went into the pitchers catcher meeting.
He was something else. As everybody, I mean, his record speaks for itself. The amount of innings he threw and the consistency. What a great guy! But he was hilarious. I mean, he didn't go into our pitchers meetings. He wanted nothing to do with it. He never shook or rarely shook.
No.
Once in a blue moon, he just wanted to catch it, to put down the sign. He would throw whatever it was and go with it and trust it, and it was pretty awesome. Actually, I tried to get him to rub off. He rubbed off on a few different guys, Marco Estrada, Jay Happ a little bit, where it took the pressure off of them. So we would create the game plan, go after guys, have a plan with the catcher, whether it was Russ or Navi or whoever. And those guys would just go along, and it made it a lot easier. It took their thought process out. They're just making one pitch at a time. And it worked. But Burley was something else. He would make me nervous. He was late every day too to the bullpen. He'd throw 5 pitches. He'd look at me and basically say, my arm's killing me. That I don't know if I'm going to make it through the first inning. And sure enough, he'd go 7 innings and keep us in the game every night. He was unbelievable. Every night.
There's one story I got to share here because it's funny because you said he rubs off on guys. It has to do with Marcus Stroman because in Caleb Joseph, he does some TV for you now.
Yeah, sure.
We had that play in Baltimore where I don't know if everybody thought Caleb took a cheap shot at the runner or back before that rule, he took a jab, so everybody was all up in arms, right? And so Stroman's pitching that game, and Caleb's coming up. I think it was Caleb, and I guess Burley was sitting next to him in the game, and he said the story I got anyway. You would know better than me. He told Stroh, "Go get him." Like, hey, go get him. Go get. Wasn't specifically talking about the guy. So Stroh goes up there and throws behind the guy. He thought Burley was telling him, go get him, go drill him or something.
That's exactly right. He misunderstood him. He did. And Burley felt bad about it after. But he definitely misunderstood him. And Burley told him to go out there, hey, go get him. Let's get back on track and get us back in the dugout. And Stroh took it the other way. Got us in a little bit of hot water. But, yeah, Burley, he was looked up to by a lot of guys. And, I think it was because of his track record, the way he went about his business. He was a pro. He answered the bell. He took the ball every 5 days, no matter what. How he felt didn't matter. It was pretty amazing to watch.
Hey, who've been some of your favorites? We've had a lot of good ones. I know you got a lot of, man. They all loved you. Yeah. There's some that really stand out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been fortunate. We've had a lot of great guys when we're together, and I've been real lucky with the pitchers. And even my staff today has been awesome. So I'll leave those guys out of it because we're still with them. But some of the guys I've had in the past, Jay Happ, Marco Estrada, Burley, Stroh when he was here, those guys were so competitive, and we had some good years with them, and we came close, right? We didn't get there, but we came really close. But I still keep in touch. And I've said that to some other coaches. I think a sign that maybe you've made a connection and is if you stay in touch with certain people over the years. And it's kind of disappointing when you don't hear from people sometimes, but I still hear from a lot of those guys, and it's a lot of fun when we get a chance to text or check in. Modern technology helps. You don't have to make a phone call; you can shoot a text. But I still stay in touch with Jay Happ and Marco Estrada and guys like that. But they're definitely some of the guys that I enjoy being around a lot.
Stroh's probably calling you. Hey, man, what am I doing? Hey, check out my last start. He had a tough July. He's probably saying, Petey, what am I doing wrong?
Stroh's fine. He went on his own. He's a guy that knows himself and he trusts himself, and
he done a tremendous job.
But he's kind of he's got his own rhythm, right? He goes to the beat of his own drum, so to speak. But he's a competitor, no doubt.
Hey, Johnny, what do you got for Petey? We got to let him go, man. He's got to get to the airport.
A couple quick questions. Romano coming back this week, right? So that's that's great that he's getting back. And you made a move. The organization made a move at the deadline, picking up Jordan Hicks, flamethrower from St. Louis. So that's kind of a great 1-2 punch at the back end of that rotation, isn't it?
Well, that is, and then also, of course, we got Chad Green coming. So
how's he doing? How's everything going with Chad?
I was over at the field today on my off day, Gibby. You'll love that. I know you used to go in on your off day. You used to go in on your off day. But I was Chad Green was playing catch today and getting a little work in, so he's on track. He had that issue in AAA where he got hit.
You tell him to start ducking,
but I know. But he's good to go, and he'll be back soon. So we'll have Green and Hicks and Romano, and then the guys we've had all year. Swanson and Mays and Cabrera's been unbelievable. Getting him from St. Louis has been huge for that bullpen. It gives Timmy Mays a little bit of a breather. The opportunity to use 2 lefties. So we're strong down there. Garcia, Richards is coming back too. Richards will be back this week. So you look at Trevor, he's kind of been the glue up to this point. I know he had the little neck issue, but he's been the glue with us all year. He's provided huge innings. Strikeout numbers are through the roof. He's been extremely valuable to that bullpen. But yeah, I think we're in a really good position for the stretch run here in that bullpen to lock down games. The rotation, they keep doing what they're doing, and you see what we did offensively in Boston and yesterday, and what we're capable of for sure. And I think we're starting to put it together. And I know in some ways it's been a frustrating year, but for some people, but for us, we know we're still in a great spot, and we're going to get hot. And I like the vibe in the clubhouse right now and in the bench, and I think we're all expecting a big finish to August and September.
Yeah, you guys are good, man. You know what? Hey, I was just telling somebody the other day, they were talking about Seattle, right? Seattle, is around your tail or something, right? I said, in reality, if you think about it, this is what happens. They had to win, they won 8, 9, 10 in a row or something, right?
Yeah.
If you get on that kind of roll, you cannot overtake the team in front of you. It's catching up with you. You can't keep big leagues. You can't keep that rolling.
Can't keep it up.
You bet, that's time you better overtake somebody when you get on that kind of roll, Now it may go down to the wire, but you guys are too good. But I can remember in 13, if you remember, we struggled out of the gate. We won like 12 in a row just to get to 500, and then we're so out of gas. It was like, bleh.
Yeah, I agree. That you see that happen. I think they're really good. They're strong though. They have really good starting rotation. They're scoring some runs. Their bullpen's good. Even though they traded a couple of guys away, they're dangerous for sure. And I'm sure they believe the way they're playing. So, but I agree. It's you get on those hot streaks, and they definitely don't last forever. We've been on them. We've seen it over the years. But you just it's really the consistency coming every day on that same game plan of not getting too high, too low. Don Mattingly's been great this year for me, trying to keep me even keel. Because I get a little up and down, I'm emotional. I'm passionate about the game, so I take losses pretty hard. And wins I enjoy. So I'm trying to stay here, a little bit more like you back in the day. And I think I'm doing a better job of it. But yeah, I think if we just come every day, one pitch at a time, guys are taking one at bat at a time. We have the ability certainly to be there in the end, no doubt.
Hey, well, when you guys play the Yankees earlier in the season, that's Donnie's old team, right? He's a legend over there, right?
Oh, yeah.
I figure maybe he took those days out, or he didn't watch what happened, because I saw you getting fired up with that third base coach, man.
He might have been chirping a little too. There's always some things, and you may regret. Oh, yeah. You may regret after, but in the heat of the moment, you say some things. I mean, you say things to umpires. I know you never did. You never said anything you regretted, but I know. But I know I have. They're human beings. They're out there. They're trying to win, or the umpires are trying to do their job, but we get caught up in it. And I think most people in baseball understand that. So I don't think there are any grudges that are held, and they just kind of they go with it. But yeah, I get a little fiery. I don't know. Maybe I think they'll forgive me.
That's good. Hey, Petey, let me tell you this right here. That's another reason you're so beloved by the guys on the team, especially your pitching staff. You fight for them. You know what? And I always believe, if you want those guys to fight for you, you better fight for them. Whether that's, in the umpires, they dictate a lot. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, they're humans and all. We all get that. We all make mistakes, and they're always pissing somebody off. Yeah. But a call here or there swings the game.
It does.
they're not going to change it for you,
No.
but there's nothing wrong with getting on them a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's been part of the game, and you just try to keep it to a reasonable amount. But yeah, I've been trying a little bit harder just to kind of bite my tongue here and there, and but again, I agree. Fighting for your players is important. You know it. We can overdo it at times, but certainly there are times when you got to do it, and you got to let them know that you're behind them, and you don't want to see them get kicked out of the game for sure. You don't want to see a star hitter or your starting man, a guy that's starting the game in the third or fourth inning get thrown out because of a call. So
right.
you got to come to their defense in those situations and kind of take it. But yeah, I think it's once I don't enjoy it, I enjoy that part of it though. I don't know, maybe that'll be time to go, right? When you kind of lose that passion. You felt it. I felt when you're managing, when you're coaching, you feel like you're out there with them. So that's the best part.
You are. You live and die, man. You see what those do. All right, before we let you go, when you got chunked when that umpire came out to the mound, you were sitting there and hey, I got to ask you. Every pitching coach does it now, right?
Yeah.
They go to the mound, they're talking to the pitcher, and they're like, it's like the cameras are. I know technology is so good now; they're going to read your lips.
You're up on the jumbotron. It's unbelievable. Usually they have the meeting right there. You can see the opposing pitching coach. If he doesn't have his hand on his mouth, you can literally read his lips. What they're going to throw, how they're going to attack this guy. It probably is overdone a little bit, but it's just a habit now. My hand goes right over my mouth. I start talking to the pitcher and the catcher, and sometimes the umpires listen to them.
Hey, I got one more funny story about one of our all-time favorite, Justin Spire. Spire told the story. Spire, one of the people that remember, he's one of our better relievers here. But he had a pitching coach. Wasn't you, obviously, but he come out the mound. They said this guy was always eat tobacco and coffee.
Yeah.
He said terrible breath. So when the pitching coach would come out there, he would take his glove and put it over the pitching coach.
Yeah, he did. I was there for that actually. He also, story about him. Do you remember when he came out and impersonated the grounds crew and raked? He was actually in our bullpen at that time, and we couldn't find him. It was like the fifth inning, whatever inning, they come out and rake the field, and all of a sudden we realized he was out at third base. He was in the grounds crew uniform, raking third base,
getting on Corey Koski. That was Corey's over there. He was getting on, jumping. He's like, "You suck," or something like that.
He impersonated the grounds crew during the game. In a game, he might have come pitched in the seventh inning.
That's the beauty of the game. People only do. You have fun. There's some characters. Spy wants to come on the show. I got to get Spy on the show.
It'd be great.
Yeah, but Petey, listen, pal. Huh?
No, he used to. Go ahead. Forget it. Go ahead.
No. Anyway, listen. We can't thank you enough. You don't get many off days. You're probably going to the park when you get home just to do some studying up too, aren't you?
I'm actually going to get lunch with my brother right now. He's leaving the South.
Oh, all right. Well, you better hurry.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
pal. Keep up the good work. You guys are in good spot. We'll all celebrate at the end. When you do win it all, man. Say hello to everybody for us.
I will. I'll tell everybody hello. Thanks for
All
having
right,
me
pal.
on. Great
You
seeing
bet,
you.
man.
Thank you, Pete.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
See you.
Well, it's great to have Pete with us here on Gabbing with Gibby. I mean, that was a really good get, John. And I know the guy is kind of like he likes to focus on the job. Getting him to appear for the first time on Gabbing with Gibby. Bravo, my friend. That was really good.
Pete, hey, Johnny, Pete's, we go way back. He played for me in the minor leagues, and, we even talked a little bit about it. And he's one of the best in the business. I don't know anybody's better. And that's just not just throwing around a compliment because I like the guy, right? I watched him, and there's not a guy that cares more than him. But the most important thing, he gets the most out of his guys, and he lives and dies with them. He bleeds with them. And he's very humble. So at first I don't want to go on the show and talk about myself, and plus he's very busy. He studies all this stuff way, or a heck of a lot more than I did, put it that way. But yeah, he's one of the best, and we appreciate him coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you spend 11 years consecutively as a pitching coach for any team, you're doing something right. And he obviously is. Well, now, inspired by our friends at Miller Lite, it's time for another Roast and Toast. And Gibby, we're going to roast an organization and we're going to honor an organization this week on the Roast and Toast. This week, we're roasting the Baltimore Orioles organization. They indefinitely suspended their broadcaster, Kevin Brown, for discussing the O's record against the Tampa Bay Rays at the Trop, mentioning that Baltimore had lost their last 15 series at the House of Horrors, which a lot of people call it. And so they suspended him. And there was a graphic with that on there. So obviously, there's a graphic. He talks about it, and then he gets suspended, first indefinitely. And then there was such a universal outcry across baseball from every broadcaster on the air, just kind of outraged at what they did, that the O's reinstated Brown after just a few days, and he got back into the booth this past Friday, only missing a few games. But for this, Gibby, we got to roast the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't know how many times I said that. I called that's the House of Horrors. We could never win down there. It wasn't just us. It was the Baltimore Orioles, obviously. The Yankees had trouble. The Red Sox. There's just a tough place to play. Now, did you say like 15 straight series or something?
15 straight series at the stadium. Yeah, the O's have not won.
Yeah, ours might have been longer than that. If you're embarrassed by the facts, change them. Or if you can't stand the facts, well, you know what? You're a little bit paranoid. But if anything, the Baltimore Warriors are playing so well this year. It shouldn't matter what anybody says. For crying out loud, it's all positive mostly anyway.
Yeah, they're doing well, and they're in a good spot. But to suspend their announcer for just kind of reading off a graphic and talking about it, what I found, and the entire baseball world just said, "What are you doing?"
Paranoia will destroy you.
That's a good quote for sure. But on the other side, we got to toast the Toronto Blue Jays for organizing one of the best ceremonies in recent memory, and that was the induction of José Bautista into the level of excellence. And it was also announced during the ceremony that the Jays donated $100,000 to the Holland Bloorfield Hospital in José's name. A wonderful day honoring one of the greats in Toronto Blue Jays history. And for this, Gibby, I think you'd be in agreement that we have to toast the Toronto Blue Jays organization.
Yeah, you know what, Johnny? Tip their hats to them. They did a tremendous job, and I had a chance to talk to Mark Shapiro. I hadn't seen him in a while. We had a nice little conversation, and he really helped, he didn't do all the work behind the scene, but he okayed it and signed off on it, and Edward Rogers, the owner now. That's, what, the Blue Jays always go all out. That's one thing I've noticed, when I was there, when they do things, they do it right, and Marty Starkman behind the scenes, was a big organizer. Maria Cresswell, who brought everybody in, they did some kind of job. And if you're going to go, if you're going to do things, you might as well do them first class. And the Blue Jays have always been first class. And they salute them because you know what? You're celebrating one of your all-time greats. He deserves that.
Yeah, a guy who meant just so much to the franchise, and it was a great weekend. And John, it's great to hear your stories about what a wonderful weekend it was.
Corner booths, sticky floors, weekdays that feel like weekends. You never forget the way some things taste. Miller Lite, great taste, 90 calories. Tastes like Miller time.
But there's so much more baseball to cover, and we're going to do that next week. So that'll wrap up this edition of the Gibby Show. For John Gibbons, this is John Arezzi. We'll talk more baseball with you next week right here on the Gibby Show. So have a great week, everyone, and go Blue Jays.